Somewhere in Britain this morning, someone with a full service history on a car they thought they could trust turned the key, heard a sharp metallic snap, and watched the engine die on the spot. Not a warning light, not a limp home, a dead engine, and a repair bill of £3, £4, sometimes £6,000 on a car that may not even be worth that much. And here is the part that should make you angry. It was not their fault, it was not bad luck, and it was entirely predictable, because the engine under that bonnet is a known failure, one of a handful still quietly destroying themselves in cars all over this country. By the end of this video, you will know the 7 engines still blowing up on British roads in 2026, the exact cars they are hiding in, the one sound that warns you seconds or months before disaster, and the legal rights most people have no idea they hold when it happens, because the badge on the boot will not save you, only knowing which engine is underneath it will. A premium German saloon and a humble French supermini can both hide an engine that grenades itself, and the price you paid has nothing to do with whether it survives the next cold morning. Let me explain what blowing up actually means here, because I am not being dramatic. Most modern engines are what is called an interference design, which means the pistons and the valves share the same space at different moments, kept perfectly apart by the timing of the engine, split-second choreography repeated thousands of times a minute. When the thing that controls that timing fails, a chain, a belt, a tensioner, the pistons and valves try to occupy the same place at the same time, at thousands of revolutions a minute. The result is instant catastrophic destruction. Bent valves, cracked pistons, a shattered top end, all within seconds, often before your foot has even left the clutch. It is not a repair, it is a new engine or a scrapped car. And here is the detail that turns misfortune into scandal. On the engines in this video, the part that fails is one the manufacturer explicitly told you would last the life of the car. A timing chain is sold as a lifetime component, unlike a cam bolt you are told to change every few years, so owners never budget for it, never expect it, and get no warning in the service schedule right up until the morning it lets go. It does not last the life of the car, it ends the life of the car. That is the whole story, and it is going to cost a lot of people a lot of money in 2026. Here is the first thing you need to understand, because Britain is unusually good at killing these particular engines. The way we drive is the problem. Most British journeys are short, stop-start crawls through town, and that constant stopping and starting cycles a timing chain far more than gentle motorway miles, wearing it faster than the mileage on the clock would ever suggest. So a car that looks lightly used can have a chain on its last legs. Worse, the manufacturers stretch their service intervals to make the cars look cheap to run on paper, so many of these engines were told to go 15,000 miles or 2 years between oil changes. But a tired timing chain and its tensioner rely on clean, pressurized oil to hold their tension, and old, thin, dirty oil, and there's not much left of it after 15,000 British miles, is exactly what lets the chain slip. So you have the perfect storm. Engines with a known weak point driven in the precise way that accelerates that weakness, on a servicing schedule that starves the very part that fails. Our damp climate and our love of the diesel for company car mileage only pile on more of the exact cars that suffer. And these are not rare, exotic machines. They are the superminis your kids drive, the family diesels on every driveway, and the company cars that fill every used forecourt in the country. That is why this matters to you. Whatever you drive, and whatever you are about to buy. I want to be transparent about how this was put together, because there is a lot of hearsay about engines online. This is based on the complaint data logged with the DVSA, the government's vehicle safety body, which records the faults owners report. The claims data from warranty companies, who see exactly which engines fail and what it costs to put right, because they are the ones paying the bills. The independent specialists who repair these engines week in and week out, some replacing a single failed component 6 to 12 times a week on one engine alone, the people who know the truth because they are elbow deep in it every day. The owner forums where the pattern of failure is impossible to hide, thousands of the same story told in the same words, and the guidance under the Consumer Rights Act 2015, which matters enormously here, and which I will come back to at the end, because it changes what you can do about all of this. No manufacturer paid for a word of this, and several of them have spent a great deal of money and effort over the years trying to convince owners that these failures are somehow their own fault. They are not. One more thing before the list, and it is the thread that connects all 7. Every one of these failures traces back to the same root cause: cost-cutting dressed up as progress. An undersized timing chain to save weight. A rubber belt run inside the engine oil to save a little fuel and a fraction of a gram of emissions. A tiny turbocharged engine worked far harder than the engines it replaced. A service interval stretched to make the brochure look good. None of these were accidents. They were decisions made in a boardroom to shave a few pounds off the cost of building the car, and the bill for those few pounds lands on you years later in the form of a destroyed engine. Keep that in mind as we go, because it is the pattern behind every single one. Here are the 7 engines still blowing up in Britain. Number 7, the Renault 1.2 TCE Petrol, a small turbocharged engine found across an enormous range of cars: the Renault Clio, Captur and Kadjar, and because Renault and Nissan share so much, the Nissan Juke and Qashqai too. The problem here is a slow-motion execution rather than a sudden bang. These engines are notorious for drinking their own oil, burning through it quietly between services without warning lights or smoke, until the level drops dangerously low, the crankshaft bearings run dry, and the engine destroys itself from the inside out. Owners who never think to check the oil, because who checks the oil on a modern car anymore, are the ones who get caught, and by the time the warning light comes on, the damage is often already done. There were also turbo troubles on these engines to compound it. If you own one, check your oil obsessively every couple of weeks, and top it up the moment it drops. If you are buying one, walk away unless you can see it has been fanatically maintained with a thick folder of receipts, because a 1.2 TC BMW that has been run low on oil, even once, even briefly, may already be living on borrowed time with a bill you cannot see coming. Number 6. The BMW and PSA 1.6 turbo petrol, known as the Prince engine, co-developed by BMW and Peugeot and fitted to a huge range of cars: the Mini Cooper and Cooper S, the Peugeot 207, 208 and RCZ, and the Citroën DS3, among others. This one announces itself with a sound owners have grimly nicknamed the death rattle, a loud chattering from the top of the engine, usually on a cold start. That rattle is the timing chain, which on these engines stretches early, sometimes at surprisingly low mileage. Left alone, the chain eventually skips, the timing goes, and the engine is wrecked. On top of that, these engines suffer heavy carbon buildup and a thirst for oil, a charming, characterful engine in a fun little car, and a genuine money pit if that rattle is ignored. Number 5, the Volkswagen Group TSI petrol engines, the small turbocharged units in the 1.2, 1.4 and early 2.0 sizes fitted to millions of cars: the Golf, Polo, A1, A3, Leon, Ibiza, Fabia, and more, built roughly between 2008 and 2015. The villain here is the timing chain tensioner. Its job is to keep the chain tight, using oil pressure when the engine runs and a mechanical ratchet when it stops. On these engines, the ratchet can fail, so when you switch off, the chain goes slack, and the next time you start the car, the moment of highest risk, the chain can jump and the engine can destroy itself in an instant before you have even pulled off the drive. Repair after a jump runs to £3,000 or £4,000. The good news, and I will always give you the good news because being informed cuts both ways, is that Volkswagen revised the tensioner from around 2013, so later cars are far safer, and a well-maintained later TSI is a perfectly good engine. On the earlier ones, a cold start rattle is your only warning, and it demands immediate action, not a wait and see, because the gap between the rattle and the ruined engine can be a single unlucky start. Number 4, the Ford 1.0 EcoBoost, the little 3-cylinder petrol that won awards and filled Fiestas, Focuses and EcoSports across the land. It carries 2 separate threats. The earlier cars, roughly 2012 to 2015, suffered a coolant problem that could lead to overheating and, in the worst cases, engine fires, which prompted Ford action after considerable pressure. But the bigger ongoing issue is the wet belt, a timing belt that runs inside the engine oil, chosen to be a little quieter and a little more efficient than a chain. As it ages, it sheds tiny fragments of rubber that migrate to the oil pickup, the strainer feeding oil to the whole engine and block it. The engine is starved of oil and seizes solid, often with no real warning beyond a brief oil pressure light that comes on far too late. A preventative belt change is several hundred to over £1,000. If failure is a new engine, £3,000 and up, frequently more than the little Fiesta is worth. Ford has not issued a blanket recall for the wet belt and treats it as a maintenance matter rather than a defect. which is precisely why so many owners with full service histories have been left to pay the bill themselves. Number 3, and it is the same fundamental flaw from a different maker, the Stellantis 1.2 PureTech petrol, fitted to the Peugeot 208, 2008 and 308, the Citroën C3 and the Vauxhall Corsa, Mokka and Astra. Once again, it is a wet belt running in oil, and once again it sheds, blocks the oil pickup, and destroys the engine. What lifts this above the Ford is the scale and the response. The problem became so widespread, and so many engines were destroyed, that the group behind PureTech publicly acknowledged the fault, shortened the service interval dramatically to 6 years or 62,000 miles, and set up a compensation scheme for affected UK owners. That is a rare admission in an industry that usually blames the driver, and it tells you just how serious and how common the failures really were. It has even featured on the BBC's consumer programmes. The later versions of the engine moved back to a conventional dry belt to fix the problem, which tells you everything about whether the wet belt was ever a good idea. If you are looking at any PureTech from the affected years, the belt must have been done, with paperwork, or the interval must have been complied with, or you do not buy the car. No exceptions, no charming salesman talking you round it. Number 2, the BMW N47 diesel, and this one is the stuff of legend for all the wrong reasons. It is BMW's 2-litre diesel from roughly 2007 to 2015, fitted to a vast number of cars, the 118D, 318D, 320D, 520D, X1 and X3, the default choice for a generation of company car and motorway drivers. The timing chain on this engine fails, stretching and eventually snapping, and BMW made one catastrophic design decision that turned a routine job into a nightmare. They put the chain at the very back of the engine, hard against the gearbox. That means to replace it, the entire engine has to come out of the car, 6 hours of labour just to reach the part. A preventative job, done before the chain lets go, runs from £1,000 to nearly £2,000. But if the chain snaps while you are driving, and they do, often on a cold start or joining a fast road, the top of the engine is destroyed in seconds. The crankshaft keeps turning while the camshafts stop, and you're looking at £3,000 to £6,000 or a scrapped car. Despite years of complaints and warranty claims, BMW never issued a full recall, offering only case-by-case goodwill, and independent specialists up and down the country report replacing these chains 6 to 12 times every single week, and have done for years. If a rattle starts from the back of the engine on a cold morning, do not drive it. Buy one only with proof the chain has been done, and treat any N47 near 100,000 miles with no chain history as a bill waiting to happen. And number 1, the engine that turns a dream car into a nightmare, the Land Rover and Jaguar diesels, and in particular the 3-litre TDV6 fitted to the Discovery, Range Rover Sport and various Jaguars, along with the smaller 2.2 diesel in the Freelander and earlier Evoque. These engines suffer catastrophic crankshaft and bearing failure, and the crankshaft is about as fundamental as a component gets. When it goes, and on the TDV6 it can go with a bang that owners grimly describe as the engine grenading itself, sometimes taking the crankshaft clean apart. There is no repair. There is only a new or rebuilt engine, and on a Land Rover that is a 5-figure conversation before you have even started on the labour. Combine that with the turbo failures, the oil dilution, and the electronics troubles these vehicles are already famous for, the reasons they sit at the very bottom of every reliability survey, and you have the most expensive way to blow up an engine in Britain. They are magnificent to look at, wonderful to sit in, desirable in every way, and a genuine financial minefield the moment the warranty expires, which is exactly why they top this list. Buy one if you must, with a specialist inspection and your eyes wide open to what a failure would cost you. So before I give you the rules, I want to ask you something directly, and I read every reply. Tell me in the comments if you have ever had an engine fail, which car it was in, and what the bill came to, because I suspect this comment section is about to become a support group. And tell me this, did anyone warn you before you bought it? My guess is nobody did, because the one place you will never hear about a known engine failure is the forecourt where they are trying to sell it to you. The salesman knows exactly what that engine does. He is simply hoping you do not, and hoping the chain holds until it is safely someone else's problem. Now the rules, because knowledge here is worth thousands of pounds. Rule 1. Before you buy any used car, find out exactly which engine is in it, and search that specific engine for known failures. Not the model, the engine. Because the very same car can have a bulletproof engine and a grenade sitting side by side on the forecourt, depending on the year, the size, and the fuel. The engine code is the thing to Google, not the badge. Rule 2. Listen on a cold start. Most of these failures announce themselves with a rattle or a chatter when the engine is first fired up from stone cold, so insist on starting the car yourself before it has been warmed up, because a sly seller will have it running warm and quiet before you arrive. If you hear anything metallic on that first cold start, walk away. Rule 3. Demand the paperwork. On a wet belt engine, the belt must have been changed with proof. On a chain engine, look for evidence of replacement or a history of fanatical early oil changes. No paperwork, no deal, however good the patter. Rule 4. Whatever the handbook says, change the oil more often than the manufacturer tells you, every 8 to 10,000 miles or once a year, because those stretched service intervals are half the reason these engines die, and cheap oil changes are the best insurance money can buy. And Rule 5, the one nobody on the forecourt will ever tell you. If you have already been caught, you have rights. Under the Consumer Rights Act 2015, a timing chain or belt is not a normal wear and tear item, so premature failure can be grounds for a claim against the dealer who sold you the car, and within the first 6 months, the fault is presumed to have been there when you bought it. If you bought on finance, Section 75 lets you claim against the finance company too, and for some engines, like the BMW N47, organised group legal actions exist that you may be able to join. You're not always as alone, or as liable, as they would very much like you to think. Now the arithmetic, because it is brutal and simple. These engines do not cost you a bit of money. They cost you the car. A £3,000 to £6,000 engine bill on a car worth £5,000 is not a repair decision, it is a write-off, and the value you thought you had in that vehicle vanishes overnight, along with any money you still owe on finance. Compare that to the cost of avoiding it entirely, which is nothing, just the knowledge in this video and 10 minutes of research on the specific engine before you buy. Or the cost of preventing it, £1,000 or so for a timing chain or wet belt done before it fails, which is painful but survivable and keeps the car alive for years more. Look at the order of those numbers. Prevention is hundreds to 1,000. Failure is thousands to the whole car. It is the same lesson as everything else on this channel, that the cheap-looking decision, buying the tempting bargain without checking the engine, is the most expensive decision of all. The single most expensive thing you can do is nothing. Buying in ignorance and hoping the chain holds. Hope is not a maintenance schedule, and the forecourt is banking on you hoping. So here is the bottom line. 7 engines, all still out there, all still failing, and every one of them traces back to the same thing. A decision to build the car a little cheaper, that you pay for a lot more expensively, years down the line. This is not bad luck, and it is certainly not your fault. It is the predictable result of undersized chains, belts bathing in oil, and service intervals designed for the brochure rather than the engine, corners cut in a boardroom and paid for on a driveway. But you are not powerless, and that is the whole point of this video. Know the engine before you buy, not the badge. Listen on a cold start, demand the paperwork, change the oil early and often, and if the worst has already happened, know that you have rights worth fighting for, and companies that will help you fight. The people who lose everything to these engines are the ones who never knew the engine was a problem until it was too late. You are no longer one of them.